Hold on. Okay, now let me start the go live. Oh, here we go. Yes, everybody behave yourselves.
No promises.
It's coming up. It's not there yet. It's coming up. It's coming up. Redirecting to the live stream. Okay, we are live on notifications.
10 seconds.
Okay, here we go. Everybody smile. We are live. Oh, good. Yes. Hello, LinkedIn. Hello, Facebook. Ready for
All right, Bonnie, I'll listen for after the quotes for you to introduce that clip. Here we go.
Thank
Have
you
a
very
great show.
much. Thank you.
Being brought to you on the Voice America Business Channel. For more information about our network and to check our additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericabusiness.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Where does yesterday's future, which is already here, meet today's future, which is about to happen, and tomorrow's future, which could be just minutes away? Welcome to Technology Revolution, the future of now, where host Bonnie D. Graham asks savvy futurists for their predictions about the tech-driven trends that are shaping our future right now. Here's your host, who will take us into the future of now, Bonnie D. Graham.
Welcome, 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 welcome. Thank you to our intro voiceover, Ryan Treasure, the VP of everything at Voice America Radio. We're live on the Business Channel. We're live on LinkedIn. My panelists, I haven't introduced you, but wave hello to LinkedIn, wave hello to Facebook, and wave hello to the Voice America Business Channel audience. Isabella, they can hear you waving. Wave a little bit louder. There we go. Okay, everybody, good, wonderful. We've got a lively group here today, and we have a lively topic. Wait a minute, I hear noise. I hear a lot of noise. It must be social media noise. I hear hashtags bumping into each other, clanging and bumping and popping. I hear handles. I hear people with handles that make no sense. I don't know who they are. Why did they pick them? I hear 100 hashtags going bump, bump, bump in the night when I'm trying to sleep. What is the future of social media noise? Should we banish hashtags? I don't know. That's what we're here to find out today, and a lot of related topics. So let me give you a couple of opening buzz quotes, and then I will have my four esteemed panelists. They're all experts in their own way on this topic. Can't wait to hear their predictions. We also have a sponsor today. Advanced Risk Machines is going to talk about their ARM, A-R-M, all in caps, Viewpoints podcast a little later in the show. Wait for that. So buzz number one, and now the gardeners are here, of course, talk about noise outside my office window. Can't help that. Here's a quote from sellerschoice.digital, and it's a blog. Hashtags aren't as cool as they once were. Social media, like Twitter and Instagram, thrived on hashtags to promote content and connect followers with brands, but hashtags are quickly losing favor on social media. That's buzz number one. Buzz number two is from sproutsocial.com. It's been 13 years, I didn't know that, since the founding of the hashtag, and marketers are now questioning if hashtags are still relevant. When they asked their community on Instagram about hashtags, get this, 66% said hashtags are still a key part of their social strategies. 34% said, we're over those. Okay, not over the moon, over hashtags. Buzz number three is from Earl Sweatshirt. Anybody on the panel ever heard of the rapper Earl Sweatshirt? I didn't think so.
Nope.
Okay. Anyway, Earl Sweatshirt, born in 1994. He's kind of young for us. He says, everyone's like sheep on social media. Bah! One person starts making noise and everyone's like, hey, yeah. And then you got a whole bunch of people making noise at you. That's part of what we're talking about today. And buzz number four is from Ripple, R-I-P-L. They don't like a lot of letters.com. And they say, don't use only hashtags with 2 million tags. Why? One of the most popular hashtags on Instagram is hashtag fashion, F-A-S-H-I-O-N. It has 860 million tags. Tagging your post with this hashtag will ensure it gets lost in the masses. So now it's time for my panelists to wave hello. Mike Grehan, welcome back. You've been on several SAP radio shows with me. Nice to have you here, and you brought this wonderful panel today. We have Crispin Sheridan. Crispin, wave hello. Love the
Hello.
armchair. He's in his dad's library, and I want that armchair. You're going to ship it across overseas to me, please. I want it. It looks much more comfortable than my chair. We have Isabella Wong. Isabella, welcome. She's an author. If you're looking at us on LinkedIn and Facebook, that's her book. She'll be talking a little bit about that in the context of her predictions. Maybe she's using hashtags, but good ones, to promote her book. She's doing an eyebrow roll for me. Thank you. And Janet E. Johnson is with us. Janet, welcome back. You're also on a radio show with me, with Mike, a couple of weeks ago on digital engagement. Topic today, the future of social media noise. Forget about the lawnmower outside my window here. Should we keep or banish hashtags? Bonnie D in the house, happy to be here. Let's do introductions. Mike Grian, so happy to have you. You always bring up the energy level as if I don't bring it up alone on my own. What can I tell you? Now they're blowing the leaves off of my front porch. Just ignore that. I'm going to mute myself. Mike, 3 minutes. Introduce yourself, please. Go ahead.
I'd like the energy of somebody blowing the leaves off my porch, except I'm on the 14th floor. That's pretty difficult. So I've been around for about 100 years. Great to be back on the show again, and great to see Isabella. Haven't seen you for a while. Best with the book. Nice to see Crispin. I saw him just last week. And Janet, good to see you again. So I'm in great company here, but I started online back in 1995, so I've been around for a very, very long time. I wrote the first book on SEO 20 years ago, believe it or not. So I know a little bit about tags. We started with meta tags. Today we're going to talk about hashtags, as I mentioned earlier on. Now that Facebook has changed its name to Meta, maybe they're changing hashtags to meta tags now. We'll find out later on. But yeah, it's an interesting thing that over the years, people, because I've written so much about online marketing, about digital marketing, that people often say, Mike's been very good at predicting things. I have to tell you, I don't actually do any predictions. What I do is forecasting. I think predictions is usually the wrong kind of word. It's like a weatherman, they do forecasting. If they did predicting, they could just stick their hand out the window and say, I predict it's raining, and it is, So I kind of do forecasting. So what I'm kind of hoping to do today with my esteemed colleagues is not so much predict what's going to happen in the future, but forecast the direction that we're going in and give an indication and see if I've been right with some of that. So anyway, great to be back again.
Thank you, Mike. So happy to have you here. Let's go to Crispin Sheridan. Crispin, I have a feeling we should have met years ago and we didn't, so I'm very, very happy to have you. I'm putting myself on mute again. Now they're doing the leaf blower thing outside my window. So Crispin, talk to us. Introduce yourself and what's your passion for our topic. Go ahead.
Well, hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as we like to say at SAP when we start all of our conference calls. My name is Crispin Sheridan, and I'm the Vice President of Organic Search Optimization at SAP, based in Miami Beach. But you can tell from the fireplace over my shoulder, I'm not in Miami Beach currently. I'm actually in Deacon's Darpus, Somerset, in England, in my father's library, over with the fire next to me and a bunch of his books. If you can read the titles, they're his books, not mine, on behind me. They're mostly about the naval warfare. I've been with SAP for 23 years. Goodness, it sounds like crazy, but I joined in the last millennium. And my role has changed over the years, including social media at one point in time. But right now it's focused 100% on organic search. And my reason for being here today is that I feel that, as many of us know, social media is a very important factor of organic search optimization. And it's definitely not being used to its most possible state by most people in that industry. So it's really important, I think, for people to understand the connection between social media and SEO, and understand how we can help work with our social media teams or with social media ourselves if we're individual contributors, in order to make sure that we're doing the best thing, not only for social, but also for search. You're on mute still, Bonnie?
I'm unmuted. Thank you, dear.
There you
Yes,
go.
I just got it. You are still muted. Thank you. Trying to get rid of the we're also talking to a B2C audience as well. You mentioned for individuals. So we're going to keep this, we're going to predict on a big global level of, for people who just use social media for fun or for what do I want to learn today, that clanging, clashing of hashtags and handles and things that don't make any sense and don't match up. I can't tell you the number of times, Crispin, when I'm promoting a radio show and I look for somebody's handle and their chosen hashtags, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. Or even more worse, Isabel will introduce you in a second, even worse, people who send me their social media handle. They'll send me one for Pinterest and one for LinkedIn and one for Facebook and one for Instagram and one for Reddit and one for Twitter. And I've got 16 of these, and they don't get them right. They'll put a dash in one, an underscore in another. They'll put a period in one, and I'm looking for them, and they don't exist under that handle. And to me, that makes it even noisier. Even though it's silent because I can't find them, it makes it noisier for me as somebody who wants to follow them. And then I see people who say they've got 100,000 followers and they've got 12 people following them on Twitter. So that means, is Twitter out of fashion? Do I have to go to Instagram to follow them? Do I have to follow them on Pinterest, right? Janet knows what I'm talking about. She's nodding. We'll get to you in a second. So let's go to Isabella. Isabella, welcome. You're new to me, new to the show. We're so happy to have you. Please give us an intro. Who is Isabella? What do you do? And what is that gorgeous book behind you? Talk to me.
Thank you, Bonnie. Tremendous gratitude. Such an honor to be here with Crispin and Janet. Great pleasure. Thank you so much, Mike, for bringing me on. Mike is the one connecting me. So it's a tremendous opportunity for me. And I hope for all the audience today here to hear us talking about this futuristic topic. Again, my name is Isabella Wang, and I'm a digital strategist working as the COO at a company called Creative House. We are a digital company that help clients with digital transformation strategies, from website development, social strategy to lead generation. And we really focus on the big picture to help companies, customers to transform their business model in a fast changing world with strategic marketing. And I'm also part of the New York Marketing Association and a book author of this, this book called The Digital Mind of Tomorrow, through which I'll be talking about what the future of digital landscape is about. And it's no doubt that I'm living, right, and breathing in this digital landscape. And to me personally, and from my observation, I really believe it's time for us to take an in-depth look into this digital transformation and the digital landscape to really question ourselves, where can the technology development, the progression take us, and to really examine the impact of the modern technology. And Bonnie, you will hear me in the later talking as well. I come really from a bigger picture, a different angle to examine everything and to evaluate everything. What I see is a revolutionary movement is going on with our today's social media landscape, the fast changing technology that leads to a behavior shift which fundamentally shapes our mindset and our culture in a very different way. And we've talked about this noise, right? It's coming from this misusage, the hacking of AI, the lack of our concentration in doing stuff, and our patience level is just dropping. And all these tech giants, they're betting their collective future on being able to build, navigate, and operating market on this whole different digital dynamic. So the way I look at social media today is how we use it has fundamentally changed, and the expectation and so forth. So when you deep down really to the core level, it explains a lot why there's so much noise and why what we have used to work do not apply it anymore, because it's turning into something we have less and less control of. And it's the best timing for us to take a look at and to reevaluate everything. The crisis we're going through now with the pandemic also escalated this process. So in short, that's the main point of why I'm here today. I want to participate, and also the purpose of my book.
Thank you very
Sorry, I've got
much.
to just say, Isabella, that's so you. It was a great introduction, but that was actually a chapter from your book, not an introduction.
It was lovely. And Isabella, when you kept using the word landscape, I want to say I should change the title of this, the future of social media noise, to the bumps, the lumps, the stumps, and the pitfalls and the potholes on the road to the social media landscape. Everything is changing. Be careful where you walk, or where you tread, I should say. Thank Thank you, Isabella. Looking forward to your predictions. I know they're going to be great. You are lovely. You are absolutely charming. Thank you. Can't wait. Janet E. Johnson, you've been so patient. Thank you so much. Happy to have you back. I'm going to put you on speaker view. Please do me the honor. And Janet, people heard you on one of my other shows, so this audience may not be familiar with you. What do you do? What does social media mean to you? Just briefly. And why are you here? Janet, welcome.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Bonnie. I appreciate it. And good to see Mike again and to be with everybody else, Crispin and Isabella. By the way, Mike, I'm not too far behind you, so that's what I'll start with. 1998 was when I started. So I know you mentioned 1995, so we're pretty close. I started with eBay marketing, just selling on eBay. Actually, I started with shopping, but I'm a shopper, so then I realized I could make money. So the first part of social media, when I moved and shifted into social media landscape, was MySpace. So that's the first step. And Facebook wasn't cool back then. I mean, Twitter was non-existent. I believe Twitter was the next one, and they're the kind of the forefront of the hashtags. What was the Twitter world? Now, in all honesty, it's funny you mentioned I am Janet_Johnson on Twitter because I set it up so early and you couldn't get Janet E. Johnson. And so I just left it because I don't even use Twitter. And we could talk about this, but the only time I use Twitter, you guys will laugh, is when and hashtags is when I watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette to follow along with the comments of what's happening on the show. So that's all I use Twitter for. But so that's there's a use of hashtags. So my business, we do lead generation with Facebook and Instagram advertising. So we've actually, over the years, managed a lot of companies. So of course, hashtags are a part of that when you're doing organic posting, but hashtags aren't a big part of the advertising world. So that's why I'm here. We're still highly, highly involved in social media. That's what we do for a living. And I really appreciate you being here. And love to hear. I can't wait to talk about this further and hear everybody's predictions.
Thank you, Janet. And I have to echo what you said. In past years, not recently, I would follow on Twitter the Oscars, the Academy Award hashtags, and watch Oscar Academy Award 2010 or 2011, 2012. And I loved the people who were basically ranking about what everybody was wearing.
It's more funny to watch than the show itself, to watch the comments.
And once in a while I would say, I think this one's going to get the award. Oh, damn. And I became part of that conversation. And it was a live conversation back and forth with thousands and thousands of people at that Academy Award hashtag. And I love when they said, oh, look at so-and-so's dress. What's that, part of a curtain in her kitchen window, for God's sake? And the commentary was, Mike, it was scathing. It was funny. It was risque at the sense of it was rude. It was crude, but it was really fun. And I watched the show on TV while and I will tell you that when I started my radio shows for SAP, I was using Twitter for marketing, for promotions, but I was live tweeting. This is before I met any of you. I was live tweeting 15 to 20 times, Crispin, during a live show. While my guests were talking, I was taking little bits and pieces from their discussion statements they sent me, from their live comments, copying them in. I had a template ready to go, posting them on Twitter. You could see 15 live tweets from me during a 1-hour show while I was also doing research online and talking to my guests. And it was a blast. Of course, I use hashtags. I wanted somebody to pay attention. Let's go to the opening quotes. I've asked my guests to send me fun quotes from fictional characters, movie or TV, and song lyrics. And Mike Rian is starting off with a quote from Bob Dylan's 1979 album, Slow Train Coming. And this was his 19th studio album, released in August of 1979 by Columbia Records. And the quote has to do with the title of the song. So I'm just going to read the line. Gonna change my way of thinking, make myself a different set of rules. Going to put my good foot forward, stop being influenced by fools. And this, by the way, was when Bob Dylan flirted with Christianity. He lost a lot of followers because of this album, but he also gained new followers. Mike, let's talk about Gonna Change My Way of Thinking. Love the line. Go ahead, Mike.
So that, Bob Dylan's he's a legend. He's been around for such a long time, and you can pick a quote out of the year any day of the week. It's kind of timely because I've got tickets to see Bob Dylan at the Beacon Theatre here in New York later this month. I mean, the guy's 80 years old, and he's still out there, and he's going to play this song, and I know he's going to play it because it's kind of important to him. And you just touched on the fact there that he was flirting with Christianity. Yeah, he did. He kind of made that change. But there was something else that was going on in his life at the time that was really important. The story of how the Christianity thing started. He was feeling ill on tour, and he was on stage in San Diego, and somebody threw a cross on stage, and he said he didn't usually bend down and pick things up on stage because they threw all kinds of weird things on there, but he'd been really ill, and for some reason he felt compelled to pick up this cross. He put it in his pocket, and then weeks later people noticed that he'd begun wearing the cross. And this is how it changed. And he had this kind of conversion. But the interesting thing is this, that when he started recording the new album, when he started working on it, all kinds of new ideas and sounds for the album had come to mind. So when you listen to this song, it's a basic 12-bar blues, okay? But it was kind of different the way that he was playing it. And he picked out a guy called Jerry Wexler, which if you're not a music fan may mean nothing. But he is the legendary producer who worked with Aretha Franklin and all of those great soul artists of the 60s. So he brought all of this beautiful horn sound, this beautiful soul sound going on in the background. And he'd been introduced to a guy from my hometown in the city of Newcastle in the UK, a guy called Mark Knopfler, who was the guitarist and songwriter with Dire Straits. And then they added Mark Knopfler to the top of that. What he came up with was a completely unique sound. Now, during that period, he'd had no hits at all. He'd been touring, gigs were kind of good, but no hits at all, and not many people were buying his album. Now, it's interesting you say that because he was flirting with Christianity and he's a born Jew, that, he lost a few Jewish fans. I mean, he'd already had Christian fans who just love him for his music and Jewish fans who love him for his music. So maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But the reason that it's important to me is that during that time, I remember the music reviewers, they were just so in awe of this great sound that he had created. For the first time in years, he had a platinum album. He had a hit in the charts. Yeah, so whether he was Christian or whether he was Jewish didn't make any difference. People were talking about this great sound. What's that got to do with what we're talking about now? It's to do with the noise, because if this happened now in social media, that the unnecessary noise of hashtags of bad Jew or good Christian or, when the tag is actually Bob Dylan's new sound or Bob Dylan's new album. That's what it would be. And that's why I say, the problem that we have here is not just the noise, but it's the abuse of tags, these hashtags that people use. And then they lead you down the garden path. We'll come to that. You end up going down these rabbit holes. And then eventually they become what they are. The hashtag, I say now when I look, because people get so animated these days, particularly on Twitter, and the political environment has been part of that. And one person in particular who was the biggest user of Twitter. And eventually you end up looking at these tweets and you don't actually realize what the tweet is. Like the great quote that Bob Dylan made in that song, "Don't be afraid to do what you want to do. Don't listen to fools," right? If you believe it in your heart, change the sound of your music. Maybe that's what he was talking about, not changing his religion, and not listening to fools. And yet now when you see people, so many tweeting, and I see all of these hashtags that you mentioned before, and they're literally just, it shows how we've become tribal, and they are literally just war paint badly disguised as text.
Whoa, wall paint badly. And you are so right about the hashtags that would have accompanied Bob Dylan and this song. You're absolutely right, Mike. They would have been skating. They would have been religiously toned, tinged, right? They would have been nasty. And think
Wrongly
about this.
used.
And the word change, gonna change, is in the title of the song. Change would have been one, and companies would have been picking this up and saying, "Oh, change management. Well, we can use this." And then they would have looked at the background of the song and said, "Maybe not so much." Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Let's go to Crispin's quote. Crispin has sent us a quote from the character Clary Belcher, played by the late great Olympia Dukakis, said to Weezer Boudreaux, played by the wonderful otherworldly Shirley MacLaine, the movie, of course, is Steel Magnolias, 1989 American comedy drama. Crispin, I love when they put comedy drama together with a dash and describe a film. It's a comedy drama. Well, you might laugh, but you might cry. But you might cry first, and then you might laugh later. Okay. It starred Sally Field, Dolly Parton, Shirley MacLaine, Daryl Hannah, Olympia Dukakis, Julia Roberts, with a whole bunch of supporting people. And it's about women in a tight-knit group in a small town southern community and how they cope with the death of one of their own. And here is the quote. You really have to explain what this has to do with our topic, Crispin. You know I love you more than my luggage. I don't know what language. Probably I'm in North Carolina. She'll say, you know I love you more than my luggage. I don't know. I don't do good Southern accents. Crispin, rescue me for goodness sake. Go ahead.
Okay, Bonnie, thank you. Well, there's a theme here, and it has to do with travel, luggage, and baggage. If you remember back to the day when Captain Sully landed his plane on the Hudson,
yes,
and if you knew that, mentioning behind me books on naval aviation, my father was also an airline pilot. I don't think he ever did a water landing, but I certainly saw him when he was doing his military work. And Captain Sully landed his plane, and I heard about it on the radio. I was sitting in my office on the southwest edge of Manhattan, and I actually went to Twitter in order to find out where on the Hudson it was, because if I walked west right down in the village, I would be able to see the Hudson. And it was in the old days when you actually had to stay at your desk most of the day. We weren't doing remote work. And I wanted to quickly rush out, but I knew I had about a 5-minute window. So I watched, and I started to see some hashtags pop up, hashtag plane crash, hashtag Captain, not Captain Sully, but, amazing captain landed the plane, people are still alive. And it said, okay, it's passing 23rd Street, it's passing 20th Street, it's passing 18th Street. And I got it right at that moment. I walked over to the river, 1 block away from my office, and I looked out, and there was this plane floating down the river. And it was absolutely extraordinary. By that point, they'd rescued the people off it, and it actually was beginning to sink. And it was quite the most amazing thing I have ever seen. But yes, luggage, it's becoming baggage. Hashtags are becoming baggage. And do we really need them? It's a loaded statement. Do we need to have this type of what I call SEO for dummies? Because really it was a way that people could, pretend they're doing SEO and say, oh, I'm hashtagging this particular thing this way because it's going to show up in search results. Well, search is a little more complicated than that. We know there are hundreds and hundreds of factors in Google's algorithm alone. And we need to go make sure that hashtags go the way of the dodo, and really let people like Matt Cutts, who used to run the spam team at Google, actually manage this for us, because there's so much mess in the world at the moment with hashtags, so much misusage, so much spam, and hashtags are getting used for bullying, even as Mike alluded to, on the religious front as well. So we have to stop people being able to go to that magazine, cut out the letters, and put together the ransom note. They hide behind anonymity. We need to get the whole industry to being a little more nicer and gentler.
Crispin, I love the recounting of the Captain Sully adventure. You were there. But what's interesting to me also is that I can rename the title of the show again, The Future of Hashtags, Luggage or Baggage. Oh,
yeah.
Crispin, thank you. See, this is very fluid. We're going to take a break we're not going away, but I'm asking my engineer, Aaron, to please roll in the ad from our sponsor before we get to Isabella's and Janet's quotes, because we want to hear from them. So Aaron, why don't you give us our sponsor message? We're so happy to have them on the show. Go ahead. Everybody just keep smiling.
I'm Jeff Wheelwright, tech journalist and host of the ARM Viewpoints podcast. I've been documenting the evolution of the computer industry since the birth of the PC. Having witnessed the mobile revolution firsthand, it's my pleasure to be working with ARM, the company whose technology sparked it all. We bring you the latest stories from the center of the tech world. In recent episodes, I've had fascinating conversations with executives, engineers, industry experts, and futurists from both inside and outside of ARM. We've covered topics from AI, data security, software-defined vehicles, robotics, and cybercrime to the promise of 5G and the future of healthcare. And we're just getting started. Join me as we speak with an ever-expanding roster of the people at the heart of technology as we explore the evolving world of computing. Download and subscribe to ARM Viewpoints at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Thank you very much. We are so honored to have ARM as a sponsor on this show. They're on every other week with me, and we are just delighted. So thank you for that message. Let's go back to our quotes. Isabella Wong, you have sent a very interesting quote from the narrator of the movie Legends of the Fall, a 1994 American epic historical drama Western film, and the character and narrator was played by an actor named Gordon Tootoosis, Tootoosis. I've never heard of him before. The character is One Stab, Onestab. And here is the quote. Some people hear their own inner voices with great clearness, and they live by what they hear. Such people become crazy, or they become legends. Isabella, what a great quote. Take about 2 minutes because we're not going to get to the predictions at this rate. We're having too much fun with the quotes. Isabella, talk to me. How'd you find this quote, and what does it have to do with our noise topic today? Go ahead, Isabella.
Thank you, Bonnie. This is one of my favorite movie. So absolutely, I love this quote. And you guys ready for Isabella's book, chapter 2? Since we did a chapter 1. Just kidding. I'll keep this very short. Yeah. So, this quote is about inner voice and the passion, the courage to follow this inner voice. And what I see today with all this chaos, the noise, is because of our losing our inner voice, the clarity. We're indulged in this irrelevant information overloaded world, and the misusage, as the two speakers was talking about, the misusage and the spam, the robots, all pressing us to think about the power of clarity, how we use hashtags, and how what does it mean to use hashtags? It's just to follow another trend, or you just want to boost your ads. So all these are engaged with our clarity and our power to think. And next important thing is our passion and courage to follow that clarity. There will be a lot of disagreements. We can see that's why it's so noisy. And what we really need to do is to put down, to do a suspension of our piece of belief, and to really consider the evidence, what is true. Because all of these misinformation are failure of using technology coming from our lack of clarity and our lack of imagination. And when we're moving forward, thank you, Bonnie. When we're moving forward, those are the power to help us shape a better environment, to help our behaviors to going to a better direction.
Thank you very much. Isabella said, thank you, Bonnie. And I wasn't on camera view at that point, but I was going, wow, my eyes were popping. Wow. And she saw me on screen. We're on Zoom here. Thank you, Isabella. Very interesting. Clarity, such an important word in our topic today. Clarity. What do you mean? What are you trying to say? To whom are you trying to say it? How are you trying to say it? Are you going crazy trying to say it? That's part of the noise too. Janet E. Johnson with an underscore in there somewhere. Here you have sent a quote from Rafiki Amandrel, voiced by the wonderful Robert Guillaume. In the animated films, there were a whole bunch of properties in the franchise. The Lion King, 1994 American animated feature film that spawned a Disney media franchise comprising a film series and lots of other media. And here is the quote. This is beautiful, Janet. Oh, yes. I can't do a Mandrel voice. I'm sorry. Oh, yes, the past can hurt, but you can either run from it or learn from it. Oh, Janet, I get goosebumps when I read this. Take 2 minutes. Tell us how this relates to our topic. I think we know what you're going to say. Go ahead, Janet.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of obvious. We've already kind of alluded to that. This obviously is a quote for life as well. I mean, life, business, whatever, social media, will guide it into what we're talking about today. But this is an overall quote that we just need to learn from our past and move forward. And when it comes to social media and the hashtags, I mean, when social media was launched, hashtags were still a pound sign to me. I mean, us older generation, it was hard for us to switch from pound sign over to calling it hashtag, because, I think of the old telephone, where you had the little pound sign on there. Sad to say. And aging ourselves here. So we did, we're going to talk today about the future too. So, not only today's world, we look at the past, how were hashtags used, we look at the present, how are hashtags used, and then what will the future be? We're going to be talking about all of it, but bottom line is we have to just learn from it. Social media changes every single day of our life, and there's nothing we can do to change that. So we need to just embrace it and move along with the changes in a meta way. Ha!
Thank you very much. We won't give the backstory to that word in other languages. We'll leave it alone. Let's move to our predictions. We've got about 20 minutes left, and let's see how many we can cover. Let's keep it brief. Mike, I'm going to your prediction number 3. I like this one. It's a broader look. You say thinking about, and by the way, I'll read a little bit of the prediction. Mike, unpack it. If anybody has anything to say to amplify it, just wiggle your finger at me, the pointer finger, please. That's all we need. And then I will, if I see anybody, I'll call you. Otherwise, I will have picked a prediction already for Crispin and one for Isabella and one for Jen. I'll put them in the private chat to you, and then we'll just keep going. Let's see. We've already been doing a lot of predictions here, but mostly critique of what the challenge is, what the problems are, why we have noise. Mike, prediction number 3, thinking about the original purpose of the hashtag. Imagine a future, I love that phrase, where the real social network is something like Ancestry or MyHeritage, where DNA is used to connect families. In the future, DNA connections are likely to fundamentally be the first layer of fabric in social networks, followed by friends and other connections. You could call it a network of trust. Wow, Mike, is this an original, is this a Mike Grehan never heard before, first on my show? I'm very honored if it is. Mike, take about 2 minutes, unpack this for us, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, it is something that I've been thinking about for a while, but this is the first time that I've talked about it in this kind of public sort of way. But one of the things that you mentioned in there, because all of those things that I talked about are kind of linked together, and that's understanding what was the real purpose of the hashtag to begin with. The guy who invented the hashtag worked at Twitter, and then he went on to Google Plus after that. The reason that he used the hashtag is he just needed a symbol that would bring things together collectively, so the subject matter would be right, so that you wouldn't get lost in all of the noise. That was the whole point. And yet it's being used in exactly the opposite way. And you end up, encountering content that you weren't looking for, characters that you're not connected to, these kind of, and then end up, like I say, down that kind of rabbit hole. But this social network and social network analysis has been around for such a very, very long time, looking at groups and the way that we group together. And if we didn't go out looking for fights and those kind of things, we'd probably end up there and, birds of a feather flocking together kind of thing. So what does this mean? I was brought into, real quick, I was brought into the beta group when 23andMe started so long ago, which was taking your DNA and then, trying to link your family together. So as opposed to the social network that we have at the moment, where I'm feeling lonely, so I might find somebody. What about you start and connect with your family first, and they connect with you, and then you connect with their friends and their friends. And then that's the way it goes. So the first layer of that actually becomes this network of trust. So the source itself is validated. The information that you're receiving is actually validated to begin with. So you start with that first layer of trust, and then you build on that. And then you can use hashtags that are connected to you and your family and your interests. So I honestly do believe that, given that there are changes taking place over at Facebook at the moment, I'm sorry, the trust thing has to come into it. They kind of lost a lot of that. But the likelihood is that going forward within social networks, that DNA thing would have been brought into it anyway, and connecting us together on the planet, starting with a network of trust as opposed to starting in the middle of this chaos and then trying to find out where the meaningful information is and where the trust is,
Thank you very much. I saw a hand go up. Mr. Sheridan, talk to us.
Yes, well, goodness, DNA. I love the subject immensely, and Mike, it's triggered so many thoughts in my mind just hearing you say that. It is a fantastic concept and a fantastic quote. I think it should be the title somehow of your next book. But if we look into the DNA, there's so much DNA that's not understood in our own DNA. And this is sometimes called the baggage, the excess baggage DNA, or the garbage DNA. Well, believe me, it isn't, and it's probably something far more important and far more useful. And we have to decide if we go through life with this baggage, and is it baggage or is it luggage? Luggage is a good thing. We carry the important things with us. Baggage is sometimes things that we can dispense with. I arrived recently in Caracas, Venezuela, and I was detained for 7 hours in the airport. They thought I was a spy because I had no luggage. And I also happen to have 3 passports.
You said
which
it's
they
all
didn't
in
know
my
about.
head.
It's all in my head. Yeah, exactly. And 7 hours later, they let me loose on Caracas, and apparently I was quite lucky to get away with my life. The idea of luggage and baggage, I think, is really important, and the idea of DNA, it gets to the point of authenticity and trust and reliability, and this is where we have to really deal with the issue of anonymity in social media. Because most of the bad things, as I see it, that happen are due to anonymity. Yes, you've got people who get up on their soapbox and they're willing to show themselves and show their face and say terrible things. But in the vast majority of cases, it's the bully in the schoolyard who is using social media, and social makes it so easy for them to hide behind that. So
the
let's think about,
validation and the validation verification is really important. Can I just throw something real quick, Bonnie, because it's
Go
kind
ahead.
of interesting. I went to the first live event that I've been to in a long time, and just a couple of weeks ago, and it was a lot of big retailers who came together, and they started talking about privacy issues and social media and those kind of things. And somebody on stage came up with this marvelous comment. She said, people talk about privacy issues and they worry because somebody says, I'd like to have your email address. And I go, why would I give you my email address? Then the next day they spit into a little thing and openly send a sample of their DNA to somebody on the other side of the country, and yet they're worried about, you want my email address? The juxtaposition of those two things was just, but yeah, I think, certainly the DNA thing and validation verification. There you go.
Very interesting. And zero trust, there's so many things we could spawn from this conversation. But Mike, if you Google certain people, many people, you'll find out where they live, the address. You'll see the Google view, aerial view of the roof of their house. You'll find out what the current home value is. You'll find out who all their relatives are, who their past connections are, what their last 5 cities of residence were, what their last 5 phone numbers were. So don't talk to me about privacy. And I have a neighbor.
Bonnie, I wonder what it is that you're doing when you're not doing a radio show now.
Well, once in a while. I only have 10 shows, 10 series right now. But I have a neighbor who told me she hates technology. And do you know how she told me that? You ready? She texted me.
Exactly. Anyway, I'm just about to do a search at Google for Bonnie D. Graham surveillance.
You do all you want, honey. That's fine. I don't think I have any secrets anymore. Crispin, I'm moving on to your prediction number 2. Let's keep these brief because I want to make sure we get at least one from Isabella, one from Janet, because these are good. Crispin told me the following: future of hashtags. He says hashtags will go the way of email folders. Gulp. We'll no longer have to manually tag our content in this way. Better algorithms and the profile of the writer will play the role of getting found if and when it's appropriate. I'm going to stop there. Crispin, 2 minutes. Unpack this. This is interesting. Algorithms, talk to me.
Yes, definitely. So, like I mentioned earlier with Matt Cutts, I mean, his team used to be called the spam team before it was evolved. And essentially, much of the algorithm for Google and many other platforms is designed to weed out the spam, because those big companies need to make sure that their platforms are used in the best way possible. And spam is one of the worst things that people can do to hijack platforms and hijack concepts and stories and people's lives and their own truths, and really get in the way and cause that level of noise. So these things have to go away. Because, like I said, it's SEO for dummies. It's not necessary anymore. The algorithms can really take control, and people will get used to maybe using hashtags in a different way. Sometimes I see people sort of use them as decoration, or they'll say them at the end of a sentence. Hashtag, what a great concept. But that's not an actual hashtag necessarily. But user behavior is what is going to change this industry, and we have to incentivize it as professionals.
Thank you very much. And we're most of you are focusing on the professional side, the business side, the SEO side. And there are so many communities on social that have nothing to do with business. I'm in a 55 plus community here, and we have our own intranet. And I see certain people are creating the noise. They have something to say about every topic that comes up. And every day they post diatribes this long. Well, I don't think we should have to wear masks anymore. And we're all going to die anyway. And why are we doing this? And why is the board? And they're there every damn day with these, and that to me is social noise. I'm reluctant to go on the forum because of all the stuff that they're, it's the same 3 or 4 people and everybody goes, oh yeah, you're right, you're wrong. And so to me there's lots of levels of this noise that doesn't even have to do with hashtags, but I want to put hashtags for certain people so to avoid them. Let's go to Isabella's prediction number 2. I love this. Isabella taking it a broader view, which we know you like to do. She says the term social media will fade. And the definition of social media will also change as it no longer refers to any single platform, but a virtual ecosystem where we will live and breathe. Isabella, this is a big concept. Just take 2 minutes. That's all I've got, but I can't wait to hear it. Is this chapter 3 in your book?
About, yeah. 3 to 2, yeah.
Go ahead. You're up. I'm putting you on speaker. Go ahead.
Thank you, Bonnie. Don't worry, I'll definitely leave enough time for Janet. I'll keep it very brief. And by the way, good notes on this noise environment, even in the niche community. What I see is really an infotech war going on here, overloaded with a lot of information. Yeah, that's just a quick note, and great notes from Mike and also Crispin. Mike mentioned this social thing. It's just a tool. Like our desire to be engaged socially will never change. So that's why I see this. It's a transition to something else instead of just, oh, what's the next thing? We'll always find something to engage. The question is how and in what way. And something big just happened last week. We all know, right? This meta future. We'll keep a closer eye on it, how it's gonna unfold. So what I see is technology is playing a critical role in creating this new engaged social, whatever you call it. The word is not doesn't matter. Whatever you call it, social platform or social ecosystem. There's a $1 trillion bet on this meta future. Of course, there's other reasons, but I do believe they don't bet on this $1 trillion just for the other reasons. It means something for our social environment and these social platforms are just tool, as Crispin says. The engagement and also all those hashtags helps with algorithm, the AI, all these kind of mislead us to properly using it. And it's no longer helping us in the way that we wanted to. So that's why I think it's really shifting to a next stage for us to figure out. And the shifting with this meta future, it's also changing our expectation from a 2D dimensional internet to a 3D dimensional verse for us to create customer engagement or to deal with our community. So all these changes add up together. It's really shifting us to a different dynamic.
Thank you very much. Very appreciative. Can't wait to read your book. Send me the ebook, please, Isabella. I want to read it. Let's go to Janet. Janet has something to say. I don't know where this one's going. She says, I think, this is a quote from Janet_E Johnson. I don't know where I got the underscore right, Janet. We'll figure it out. I think something will come along. I'm going to change that. I predict something will come along that replaces the hashtag in the next few years. Janet E., talk to me. What do you think? What do you see? What do you predict? What are we looking forward to? Janet.
You know, Isabella just brought up a lot of points that are very similar. I mean, it's basically, the social media will change. Here's the thing, like when I dropped my kid off this morning, he's 17 years old, I asked him, what do you do with hashtags? How do you use hashtags? Because he's a TikTok and Instagram. Like those are his 2 platforms. And he said, who cares about hashtags? Like his opinion was he does not use hashtags at all. And so I also want to go back to what you mentioned about Sprout Social in the quote at the very beginning, Bonnie. You had said a percentage of how many people.
Yes.
Well, the one thing about Sprout Social is that was all the marketers and business owners. Marketers ruin everything, by the way. So we just do. And
hashtag marketers ruin everything. Crispin, you can create that one today. I'm tagging you with that one. Go ahead, Janet.
Yeah. So the bottom line is I would love to hear the percentage that are actually using hashtags Like that was people 65% that are using hashtags in their posts because we're trying to reach as many people as possible.
Yes.
But what about the people, the average consumer? How many are actually percentage-wise using hashtags? So I think they're fading. That's my opinion of it. I think people are not using them in the way that they used to be used. And even some marketers don't even know what they're doing on how they should be posting the hashtags as well, so I think they're being used in the wrong way, and so people are so confused with it all. Yeah. I think something will come along to replace that. And one of the questions you asked me was what? Honestly, I have no idea. I mean, my opinion is we should just go back to the plain old keywords like we used to have. I mean, keywords, they kind of are keywords, but they're not keywords. And so what are hashtags? There's a lot of questions there. So I do believe somebody will create something. I mean, like GIFs. I mean, how did we ever know that GIFs, and by the way, it is GIF, Google it, with a J sound. But how did we ever think that GIFs would exist, or emojis, so something crazy will come along that will replace the hashtags. Do I know what that is? I have no idea yet, but I think something will be.
You're going to have to come back in a year and tell us if you figured that out. Mike, go ahead, respond to Janet. Love to hear you.
Yeah, I do. I can tell you exactly what it is in just 2 words: artificial intelligence, where it will be. And Crispin's kind of touched on that as well. So, the keywords thing, I understand that the difference with keywords is that they're really important. Keywords are directional. You use a keyword, and when you're searching for something on Google, that keyword may not actually appear in the content that you're looking at or you're reading, but it's understood. Yeah, the inference from using that keyword, what the intent is, that I want to read about this. So, if you use the keyword fish tank and see tropical fish aquarium, good, mission accomplished. That's the way that artificial intelligence is working. And I think the same thing. The tweet will explain itself. You won't need to have somebody putting a hashtag saying, I think it means this, or I want it to mean that. So
thank
anyway,
you.
And I would add that,
Crispin, go ahead.
Yeah, I would add that, my comment about the algorithms need to change and evolve because they too are causing some of this spam. And I think, we all wonder sometimes that the algorithms themselves are causing the polarization in society. And if you think of, the whole globe, and it's a smooth surface because people are all talking to each other, and now suddenly the surface becomes concentrated in little spikes. It almost looks like a virus. Because people have congealed themselves into these little points, and it's become tense, and there's a lot of anger and so on. The algorithms themselves need to help address that issue as well.
That's true. And when we talk about algorithms, people right now mostly are creating the algorithms, and they have their biases, right? Mm-hmm. And they have their backgrounds and their own knowledge. And then when the algorithms are creating and spawning their own spin-off algorithms, then the question is who started the algorithms and where did it start? I recently did a show on the future of autonomous vehicles, and a couple of researchers at Boston University, an engineer and his colleagues, are having cars learn on virtual highways, virtual streets. And if you've ever lived in Cambridge, Mass, as I have, there are roundabouts where 5 roads are all converging on one. And it's like, oh my God, who goes first? I don't know, but I'm sitting here with the brake on because I don't want to be the one that gets squished in the middle. Anyway, cars are learning from behavior of cars and pedestrians without humans teaching them. It's the algorithm is there, and then there's machine learning. The car is the machine. It's learning. It's teaching its own algorithm how to behave. They're at a 92% success rate in getting cars to go down a track they've done before, and to a track or a road they've never seen before. So algorithms, to me, it starts with the people and then it goes somewhere else, and we don't know. We're just about out of time. I wish we had time for more. Mike, I know you had some very interesting predictions coming up. I want to thank all of you. Let's do one. We have 2 minutes left. So, all right, one quick prediction. If we met again 1 year from today, it's a yes or no answer. That's all we have time from 1 year from today. And maybe we will. I don't know. Look for the invitation, kids. Anyway, I'm calling you kids because I can. Okay. Would we still be talking about the noise in social media? Or Janet, will somebody have solved the problem? Isabella, will somebody have said, banish all the hashtags and we're going to have less noise, but more quality content and less bullying, right? So yes or no, will we still be talking about this the same way? Mike, yes or no? Yes or no?
No,
That's all you get. No.
Why?
Why? One sentence. Why?
Digital assistants.
Okay, good. Crispin, will we still be talking about it?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, Isabella?
No.
Oh, there's a chapter in your book. I want to read that one that says no.
Sorry, Bonnie. No means we the problem solved or not solved.
The
We'll
problem
talk
we won't be talking about it because there's no more problem anymore.
yes. Sorry,
That's
Mike.
okay. That's okay. That's okay. Janet, we will still be talking about it in a year.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I agree with you.
Hashtag yes, no.
I want all of you to put your hands together and thank Mike for bringing us all together today. Mike, I empowered you, tasked you, and deputized you to bring a panel. And look at the wonderful people you invited. Crispin, delighted to meet you. Isabella,
Great.
what a pleasure. Janet, it's always wonderful to see you. Mike, you outstanding in your field. What can I say? I want to thank my engineer. Thank you. I want to thank my engineer, Aaron Keller. Everybody say thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Aaron. And everybody
Thank you,
say,
Aaron.
everybody say goodbye, LinkedIn. Go on, wave goodbye, LinkedIn.
Goodbye,
And
LinkedIn.
goodbye, Facebook. And now we have our
goodbye,
and thank
Facebook.
you to my sponsor, the ARM podcast. Everybody go listen. It sounds fascinating. And we're so happy and honored to have them as a sponsor of this show because we have so many listeners all over the world. They want to reach our audience, my audience as well. Thank you to Ryan Treasure, VP of Broadcast Operations, for giving me the intro on the show. And now all of my four panelists, I want you to wag your finger. Come on, we got to go through the closing here. Wag your finger. If somebody tells you the future is already here, I want you to say all together now, no, no, no. Come on, 1, 2, 3. No, 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 no. And the reason is that was yesterday's future. Today's future hasn't happened yet. And we're all here trying to make it a better one. Bonnie D. Graham signing off. Everybody wave goodbye. Don't go away, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, we're clear. Great show.
Thank you. Let me stop the
Yeah.
recording.